Hello, my name's John and welcome to the Doom Bar. What an amazing race. Absolutely phenomenal. But before I start my reaction to the race, I just want to say that I hope the Ferrari mechanic who got ran over is okay and it's not too serious, although it did look fairly nasty from the footage. Right, on to the race. It was unbelievable. I was literally buzzing the whole way through the race. There was so much going on. From the start of the race to the finish, all the bits in between, it was absolutely out of this world. Sebastian Vettel took the win. I did predict this in my qualifying reaction. I did think he was going to win, but the way he went about it just showed why he's a four-time world champion. Mercedes seemed to have him on the strategy. Completely came in from left field going onto the medium tyres, and Ferrari had already committed to what looked like a two-stop strategy. So Vettel had to run to the end on the soft tyres, and he actually made it work. It was a superb drive and a really good win for Vettel. Valtteri Bottas, also he had a good race, but I can't help but feel, I feel he could have done more. He was closing and closing and closing. Vettel even said just on the team radio after the race that his tyres had given up for 10 laps. So could Bottas have closed in any faster? I don't know. I think if it was Hamilton in that position Bottas was in, Hamilton gets by. But then again, Bottas isn't Hamilton. And I think, in some respects, we see the limitations of Valtteri Bottas in that car. On to Lewis Hamilton. He had a fantastic race. I mean, at the beginning of the race, he overtook Hülkenberg, Ocon and Alonso all in one move down into turn one. That was one of the best things I've seen in a long time in F1. He just flew straight around the outside of every single one of them. Boom, down into turn one. Thank you very much. At that point, I knew this was going to be an amazing race. It was on another level. And all in all, for Mercedes, I think they had a pretty good race. Considering Bottas was already up there, Lewis started ninth. Although they didn't get the race win, they still came in second and third. So all in all, I think that's a good race for Mercedes. Although Ferrari took the win with Sebastian Vettel. Obviously, Raikkonen with the incident in the pit lane, he was out, so that kind of went in Mercedes' favour there. So I think at this moment in time, they won't be happy, overly happy, while Lewis won't be. But on reflection, maybe tomorrow, when they look back, they'll see that that was a good result. Now on to my man, driver of the day for me, Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rosso Honda. Absolutely phenomenal. His qualifying yesterday put him in a good position. He qualified 5th on the grid. He managed to get himself up one position into 4th. Yeah, he was nowhere near Hamilton, but that doesn't matter. He's brought that Toro Rosso in 4th, and that's Honda's best result since the engine changed to the hybrid era. That's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And he deserves all the plaudits he gets, because that was a world-class drive from him. Coming in 5th, Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. It was a good race from him. He was lively all the way through the race. He was on the team radio at one point with his teammate Roman Grosjean. I don't know what was going through Grosjean's mind. It looked like he was going to let him through into turn 2, turn 3. Just shut the door on him. I mean, there was on different strategies. Grosjean was slow anyway, and he really held Magnussen up. And at the point of where he came back across the car, he could have took the front end off Magnussen's car, and if he'd have done that after last week's embarrassment at Australia, it could have been curtains for Haas. But it didn't happen. Eventually he got by. I think they brought Grosjean in, and yeah, it's crazy. But Kevin Magnussen having a really, really good race. On to 6, Nico Hülkenberg again. He had a good race for Renault. Have some good points there. It's around about where I expect them to be, in that 5th, 6th, 7th place. Everybody was boosted because of the Red Bull retirements, but I'll talk about that later. Up into 7th and 8th was Fernando Alonso and Stoffel Van Dorn in the McLarens. That was a better result than the qualifying. That's round about where they should have been. Coming from 13th and 14th on the grid to 7th and 8th, respectively. That was a good race for McLaren. Now on to my second driver of the day, who I think has done a superb job in Bahrain with his qualifying and in the race, is Marcus Ericsson in the Sauber. He's took his car from 17th on the grid to 9th. And he was actually overtaking people as well. He whipped round Sergio Perez. It was a fantastic move to watch. And I'm sat there thinking, this is a Sauber. This is a Sauber against a Force India. But credit to Marcus Ericsson, he can drive. And he can drive well. And again, like Gasly, although not as high up the field, I thought he was phenomenal. I thought he was really good. And I'm happy for him. In 10th, you've got Esteban Ocon. Again, Force India not bringing what I thought they was going to bring to the table this season so far. They picked up points, but he started 8th on the grid, so that's a 2-place loss. In 11th, you got Carlos Sainz Jr. Again, just outside of the points. He started in 10th, finished 11th. Not a great weekend for Carlos, I don't think, but I'm sure he will get it together for the next race. In 12th, again, Force India, Sergio Perez. Yeah, he started 12th, he finished 12th, so, nothing gained there. Didn't lose anything. But again, like I just said, Force India, not the best weekend for them. Into 13th, Brendan Hartley. He's definitely not had the race that Pierre Gasly has had. He's slipped back 2 places from where he started on the grid, but an improvement on where they were in Australia. So, yeah, not too much to say about that. In 14th, you had Charles Leclerc in the other Sauber. He couldn't quite replicate what Marcus Ericsson had done, but all in all, a good race. He's come in ahead of 3 other cars there, so that should be a job well done, really. In 15th, and he had a terrible weekend from qualifying to race, Romain Grosjean. He actually made 1 place from qualifying. He got up into 15th from 16th on the grid, but still, with the retirements that we had, he didn't really gain anything. He didn't really do anything in the race. And he'll be pretty disappointed with that, I should imagine. Now getting down to Williams. And like I said in the qualifying reaction, Lance Stroll coming in 16th, Sirotkin coming in 17th, dead last. And an awful weekend. Absolutely awful weekend for Williams. With all these straights and a Mercedes engine, you would be thinking they're going to do something here. They can get in DRS, they're going to whip around people, and they didn't have straight line speed, they didn't have good speed going in the corners, they didn't have good speed anywhere. It was terrible. I mean, Lance Stroll had to come in, get a nose change, and an awful weekend for Williams. I don't know what to say, and I am a Williams fan, and I'm just baffled, just absolutely baffled as to what's gone on. Hopefully they can bring it through in the next race and show some potential in the car, but from what I've seen from Australia to Bahrain, it's going to be a long, long season for Williams. It really is. Now, on to Red Bull, and they've had an absolute disaster this weekend. A real disaster. Both cars out. Both cars retirement. First out was, well, he wasn't technically out, but the first incident was Max Verstappen having an incident with Lewis Hamilton. And I listened to the interview with Max during the race, and he seemed to think that Hamilton came across him. When I look back at the replay, I've watched it a couple of times, Max squalls Lewis out on the track. Lewis doesn't have anywhere to go. Max could have kept the steering in, but he didn't. He expected Lewis to fully pull off the accelerator and put the brake on, and that's not going to happen in racing. And the effect of that is he's landed up getting a puncture, which has messed up his differential and ruined his race. At the same time this is going on, Daniel Ricciardo, who started 4th on the grid, going around the corner, car cuts out. No power. And that's an absolute shame for Daniel Ricciardo, because I think he could have been up there today in the mix, fighting for that podium spot if he'd have stayed on the track. So this has been a weekend that Red Bull will look to forget, but it's another weekend where Verstappen's made a mistake. He made a mistake in the race in Australia, he made a mistake in qualifying, and arguably he's made a mistake in the race being far too aggressive. So he needs to go back to the thinking board now and try and work out where he can improve for the next race. So all in all, with this Bahrain Grand Prix, I'll give it a 10 out of 10. If we could have races like this every single weekend, I would be so happy. We had everything. We had overtakes, we had incidents, we had strategies. This is what F1 is for me. This is what F1 should be every single weekend. Literally, things happened in that race where I would have to watch the race again to get all the points. I've literally come from watching the race to doing this video now. So if I've missed anything, I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm just absolutely buzzing with it. It was brilliant. Brilliant to watch. And hopefully we're going to get more races like that this season. So I'm going to leave it there. If you like the video, give it a like, subscribe. If you want to get at me on Twitter, my Twitter is JohnFromTheBar. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.